I'm Jenna.
And I'm Erin.
And welcome to Between Two Filing Cabinets, where we bring you tips, trends, troubles, and stories from the lighter side of HR.
Jenna, I've got a good one for you.
All right.
So, probably one of the scariest things one of our members could probably hear is, I'm going to sue you, from one of their employees.
Right.
How do you handle a situation like that?
Yeah. You might cry,
Yeah, seriously.
hide under your desk.
Mm-hmm.
Those are options, probably not the options I would recommend. But yeah, it is a scary thing when someone threatens that. And we do get calls from members about that, often. And so I always, in kind of any situation, I think you just have to start asking some questions. So if an employee is saying that they're going to call the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor and Industries, or that they're going to sue you, I just try and start asking some questions that help me understand what's going on. It sounds like you're frustrated. Let me know. Let's talk about this and see where they are. Because it could be a whole slew of things. It could be that they've made complaints to their supervisor and nothing's been done, and they're just kind of at the end of the line. It could be that they've never made a complaint themselves, but they feel like when employees in general make complaints, their complaints get ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just sort of a coping, like maybe if they think their job is on the line, they're about to get laid off or terminated, and sort of their spidey senses are up, and they think something's happening, and so maybe then they'll threaten to make some sort of complaint.
Okay, so really it sounds like there's nothing wrong with just saying, hey, tell me more.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
Which is probably counterintuitive, because in that situation, you want to panic, right, and just hide under the table.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong. Nothing could go wrong by just saying, "Hey, I'm not sure I'm following. Hey, tell me more about the situation."
Right. And if through those questions, most of the time that will get the conversation going. You can get some basic information, and as you're talking to that person, you're kind of developing an action plan of what do you need more information about, what next steps, and you get sort of a gauge for where you are.
Okay.
But if someone's if they're still amped up about it and they're still threatening and they're not listening, then I just always tell them, like, hey, you have a right to make a complaint. You have a right to do those things. We can't stop you, but I still would like to, help you out. And I think that would be the good first step, is help me understand what's going on so we can see if this is something that we can work through together.
Okay, so that's if somebody says, "I'm going to sue you." Do you change your approach at all? Let's say if somebody just starts using really loaded words by saying, "Hey, this is harassment. This is discrimination."
I think the approach is really the same.
Okay.
As always, tell me more. What are you, give me some specific examples of the types of things that you are talking about, because employees know, I think, that there are certain words that get attention, like discrimination, harassment, this is bullying, and they should get attention for a reason, but employees don't often know what that actually means. So I always say I'm gonna do a session sometimes on rights that employees think that they have that they don't have. Because it's just, I'm gonna get on the internet and I'm gonna type in all of these things,
right,
and then I'm gonna come hand you something that says this is what I'm entitled to, these are my rights. And oftentimes they're misplaced, but the bottom line is you have an employee who's not having a good experience, and we have to figure out why they're saying these things, what's causing that.
No, that's helpful. So what do you do? Let's say the person has recently been terminated, or they're no longer your employee for some reason.
Right. So your risk doesn't necessarily go down. Sometimes people think that it does, well, they're not my employee anymore, so I don't really have to worry about them as much. And sometimes I say you almost have to worry about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because now there's a little bit less that you can do to help solve the problem now that they're not your
There's no
employee.
relationship anymore.
Right. But in terms of your response, it can be really varied, because they're not there to answer all of the questions that you probably have rattling around in your mind. So some of it depends upon what they're asking for. So I had a recent situation where I was a former employee who really just didn't like how his termination was handled, and there were probably some missteps in there, and he was demanding to be that he be hired again. He hadn't contacted an attorney. Well, he could have. We don't know that, but there wasn't any formal demand letter. He wanted to be rehired. He wanted, I can't even remember what else, but it was a whole bunch of different things. And at this point, he just seemed very upset and angry. And so our strategy was to really not respond at that point and to say, you know what, they made everything clear at his termination. Everything was well documented. He just was frustrated. And so he said, you know what, let it be. I think he's just really upset at what's going on. And if he continues to pursue, then we can talk about the next steps of whether you need legal representation, counsel. But at this point, let's just let it be. Let's not respond. It's kind of like when you get a text from someone that fires you up and you want to write that text back, and you're like,
don't do it.
And it was kind of that situation, because sometimes people just need the benefit of time. And fortunately, they hadn't heard anything back, after they, just didn't respond at all. So there's a lot of different ways to respond when it's a former employee, and it really just depends upon what they're asking for, and kind of what's led there.
Let me just tweak it. This last one. Let me just tweak it a little bit. What if instead of them coming to you with a complaint, this former employee, they put something on Facebook or Twitter and start making kind of allegations in that way?
Right. Yeah. Those are hard ones to control. But I think, any sort of savvy employer, can take a look at that and should have a policy in place for how do you respond to social media occurrences like that.
So already know beforehand. That's smart.
Right?
Yeah.
Proactive.
Yeah.
So, we've had some companies that they've seen employees, same as like a customer, right? A customer posts something negative about your company, and maybe you just kind of pop on there and just say, hey, we're sorry you didn't have a good experience. If it's an employee, you can't have the same response, because again, we don't know what they're, potentially going to be doing. They could sue us. Could that be used against us? So you could maybe potentially privately contact them. And, there are potential other claims that an employer could make depending upon what that person is actually saying. If it's something that's defamatory, absolutely. But yeah, that's where I think your good reputation as an employer is really important. And when employees leave your company, that we're not giving them an incentive to say, and to go online. But people are going to do what they're going to do. It's actually, I just had this conversation with a company last week, and they were going through a situation, and they said, well, they're not going to sue me, right? I just want to make sure that they're not going to sue me. And I said, I can't guarantee that. People are people. They, can make whatever type of claim they want.
Oh, yeah. Some of them are very creative.
Right. Yeah. So I said, but what you can do is, manage your risk. And so we talked about making sure that you have a thoroughly documented process, making sure that you're thorough in your actions before you take actions. Make sure that things are reviewed before anything is final. But yeah, it is always scary when you get that threat from an employee, and most of the time I think they work out.
Yeah.
Not all of the time, no.
And if you want to crawl onto your desk and cry, we're here.
Yep.
Call Cascade. This is stuff that we deal with on a regular basis.
Right. You can say, hi, this is Erin, and I'm calling from under my desk.
From under my desk. Yes, exactly.
But you're right, Erin. These are routine things that we help employers with all of the time, and help you through those scary situations. Hold your hand. Just confirm, yes, you're doing the right thing, or maybe give you some other suggestions about how you want to move ahead.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Well, we're going to file. We're not going to fire anyone.
No.
We're going to file this one under...
Lawsuits?
Okay, that sounds good. All right. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.